The word they used was precise, not difficult, not unlikely, not the category of the things that could happen but probably would not. They used the word that removes the category of the possible entirely, the word that is not the low end of the probability distribution, but the exclusion from the distribution altogether. Impossible, the specific word that says the thing is not in the set of things that can happen, that it is outside the set, that no combination of circumstances, no sequence of events, no accumulation of the conditions that the possible but unlikely things require can produce the thing, that the thing is not available to be produced. They were precise about it, were not using the word loosely, not using it as the hyperbolic expression of the very unlikely that the ordinary use of the word sometimes means. They meant the thing, were making the specific claim that the thing you carry, the specific quality of what you are and what the full expression of what you are produces in the world, is not in the set of things that the world can produce, that the world's available conditions, organized into every combination that the available conditions can be organized into, do not include the combination that produces what you carry, that the producing of what you carry is outside the set of the possible. The precision of the impossible claim is the most significant thing about it. The impossible claim has to be precise to function as the impossible claim. The vague impossible, the sort of impossible, the mostly impossible, the practically impossible is not the impossible, is the very unlikely. The very unlikely is in the set of the possible in the specific sense that the very unlikely things sometimes happen. The very unlikely things happening is the very unlikely specific quality, the quality that distinguishes it from the impossible. The impossible things do not happen, the very unlikely things do. They needed the precision because the vague impossible was not adequate to what they were trying to do, the specific thing that only the impossible claim can do, to place what you carry outside the set of the possible in a way that is not subject to the revision that the very unlikely is subject to, and the very unlikely thing happens. The very unlikely things happening does not survive the revision when the very unlikely thing happens. The very unlikely is revised to the happened. The impossible's happening is different, is a different kind of event. The impossible that happens is the impossible surviving. The happening is the thing that was outside the set of the possible being in the world, despite being outside the set, is what is called the impossible happening. What you carry is happening right now in the form that the impossible things take when they are happening, the form that is not the form. The people who called it impossible imagined the happening would take if they had imagined the happening, which they did not imagine because they called it impossible. The form the happening takes is the form the happening requires. The form the happening requires is the form you are in. The form you are in is the happened form of the impossible. The impossible is happening right now, through you, in you, as the full expression of what you carry in the form that the full preparation produced, as the full expression in the ordinary encounters of the ordinary life, in which the impossible thing is present as the most ordinary quality of what you bring to every encounter in which you are fully present. Leave your city in the comments right now, whatever city you are in, or country, or the word home if you do not want to name the city or the country or the word home, the location where the impossible is happening right now through the person who is reading this. The location is the location where the impossible thing is present in the world in the form of the full expression you carry. Name the location. The impossible is happening there, right now. Name the place where it is happening. To understand what it means for the impossible to be happening, you have to understand the specific form of the impossible that was claimed about what you carry. The impossible claim is not a single undifferentiated claim, is not the generic assertion that what you carry cannot happen without any specific account of what about it cannot happen and why the happening is outside the set of the possible. The impossible claim that was made about what you carry was the specific claim, was the claim organized around the specific feature of what you carry that the people who made the claim understood as the feature that made the happening outside the set of the possible. The specific feature is the feature that most distinguished what you carry from everything in the set of the possible. The set of the possible is the set of the things that the available conditions can produce. The available conditions are the conditions that the world in the specific configuration it is in at any given moment makes available. The things in the set of the possible are the things that the world in that configuration can produce, are the things whose producing is within the capacity of the available conditions, organized into the combinations that the available conditions can be organized into. The specific feature of what you carry that placed it outside the set of the possible is the feature of its being the original, the genuine thing, the thing itself rather than the approximation of the thing. The set of the possible contains the approximations. The approximations are what the available conditions can produce, are the things that the world in its current configuration is capable of producing from the available conditions, are what the ambitious and the talented and the extraordinarily capable produce when they apply the full resource of the human capacity to the production of what they are trying to produce. The approximations are genuinely extraordinary, are the best available, are what the full deployment of the human capacity in the conditions the world makes available produces. The original is not what the conditions produce, is not what any application of any human capacity to any available conditions produces, is what is prior to the conditions, what is there before the conditions, and regardless of the conditions and after the conditions, change and independently of every configuration the conditions can be in. The original is the thing that their approximations are approximating, is what the extraordinary productions of the ambitious and the talented and the extraordinarily capable are reaching toward from the outside, is the destination of the reaching that the extraordinary productions are the most complete available expressions of. The original cannot be produced by any conditions, is prior to every condition, the world's conditions, in any configuration, can produce the approximation, cannot produce the original. The original is outside the set of what the conditions can produce. is outside the set of the possible, is the impossible. They called what you carry impossible because they understood, with the specific precision that the exact word requires, that what you carry is the original, and the original is outside the set of what the conditions can produce. Was correct. The original is outside the set of what the conditions can produce. The original cannot be produced by any conditions. The original is not produced by the conditions, was not produced by any conditions, is present in you, is what you carry, is the thing that is outside the set of what the conditions can produce, present in the world in the form you carry it in, the impossible thing present in the world, not produced by the conditions, simply there, prior to the conditions, prior to every combination of every available condition, prior and present. The impossible is happening. The original is in the world, in you, not the approximation, the original, the impossible thing present in the world, because the thing that is outside the set of what the conditions can produce is what you are. And what you are is in the world, and the presence of what you are in the world is the happening of the impossible. The impossible is the presence of the original. The happening is the presence of the original in the world in you. The happening is happening right now, in you, in the encounters of the daily life in which you are fully present. In every genuine meeting in which what you carry is what is present, in every interior consent generated in the people who are genuinely present, in every shifted person carrying the shift from the encounter into the subsequent encounters, in all of it, the impossible happening in all of it, right now. The people who called it impossible carry a specific relationship to the happening, to the fact of the impossible being present in the world in the form of what you carry that is the most significant relationship to the impossible that is available from within the structures of the visible world. The most significant because it is the relationship of the person who made the specific, precise, impossible claim to the thing. The claim was made about being in the world in the happening form. The relationship is the relationship to the claims having been wrong, not wrong in the ordinary sense. The impossible claim was not wrong in the ordinary sense in which claims are wrong, in the sense of the claim being the inaccurate description of the actual state of affairs in the dimension the claim was making a claim about. The claim was accurate. The original is outside the set of what the conditions can produce. The conditions cannot produce the original. In this specific, precise sense, the impossible claim was correct. The happening makes the claim wrong in the specific sense that the happening of the impossible always makes the impossible claim wrong, the sense of the thing being in the world despite the claim that the thing cannot be in the world. The thing is in the world. The claim said the thing cannot be in the world. The things being in the world is not the claim's inaccuracy about what the conditions can produce, is the thing being in the world through a mechanism the claim did not account for, through the mechanism of the priorness, of the original being prior to every condition, and therefore not subject to the claim about what the conditions can produce. The claim was correct about what the conditions can produce and wrong about whether the thing could be in the world. was wrong because the thing does not require the conditions to produce it, was wrong because the original is prior to every condition and is in the world through the priorness rather than through the conditions production. The people who made the claim are carrying the wrongness in the specific form of the encounter with the thing they called impossible being in the world in the happening form. The encounter with the impossible being present with the thing that was outside the set of what the conditions can produce being in the world in. The form that the priorness makes possible is the encounter that the claim did not account for, because the claim was organized around the conditions producing and did not account for the priorness. The encounter with the priorness is the most significant encounter available from within the structures of the world's organized understanding of the possible and the impossible, is the encounter with what precedes the entire organized understanding with what is there before the conditions that the organized understanding uses to determine the possible and the impossible. The encounter with what is prior to the determination is the encounter with what determines nothing and is simply there regardless of every determination. The people who called it impossible have been in the encounter with what is prior to every determination, have been in the specific encounter with the thing they called outside the possible being present in the world as the thing that is there regardless of the determination's conclusions. The encounter produces in them the specific interior organization that the encounter with the priorness always produces, the reorganization of the relationship between the person and the organized understanding that produced the impossible claim, the relationship with the organized understanding that produced the impossible claim is reorganized by the encounter with what the organized understanding did not account for. The reorganization is not comfortable, is the encounter with the organized understanding's most fundamental assumption, for assumption that the possible is determined by the conditions, that what the conditions can produce is what can be in the world being contradicted by the evidence of what is in the world that the conditions did not produce. The organized understanding's most fundamental assumption being contradicted by the evidence is the most disorienting experience the organized understanding can have, is the impossible being in the world. The people who called it impossible are disoriented, carrying the encounter with the impossible's presence in the world in the specific form of the disorientation that the impossible's presence produces. Disorientation is not the final state, is the beginning of the reorganization. The reorganization that the encounter with the priorness initiates, the reorganization toward the organized understanding that can account for the priorness, toward the understanding that includes what is outside the set of what the conditions can produce as what is prior to every condition and therefore present in the world through the priorness rather than through the conditions production. The reorganization is the most significant intellectual event that the impossible's happening produces, more significant than the happening itself in the dimension of the world's organized understanding. The happening is the fact. The reorganization is what the fact produces in the people. We encounter it the organization of the organized understanding toward including what the organized understanding previously excluded as impossible. Subscribe now if the account of the impossible's happening through the priorness, through the original being there before and regardless of every condition rather than being produced by any condition is landing as the accurate account of the specific quality of how what you carry has always been present. If the priorness is recognizable as what is most fundamentally true about what you carry, that it was there before any condition produced anything in you, that it is present regardless of what the conditions do or do not produce, that the conditions organization around the absence of the adequate category for it has never touched what is prior to every condition. Stay inside this channel. The full account of the impossible's happening and what the happening means is what this channel carries. The specific form that the impossible's happening takes in the daily life, the specific texture of the impossible being present in the world in the form you carry it in is worth understanding in the full account. Because the understanding allows the impossible's happening to be recognized in the form it actually takes rather than in the form the impossible's happening is imagined to take, when it is imagined as the dramatic event that announces itself as the impossible thing happening. The impossible's happening does not announce itself, does not arrive with the specific quality of the announcement that would allow the people in the vicinity of the happening to recognize it as the happening of the impossible. The impossible thing happening looks, from the outside, like the ordinary thing, like the ordinary person, moving through the ordinary encounters of the ordinary life, like the ordinary quality of what one person brings to the encounter with another person, like the ordinary residue of the encounter that the person who was in it carries from it, like the ordinary changing of the ordinary person through the ordinary genuine meeting. The impossible's happening is not in the dramatic events, is in the ordinary encounters, is the ordinary person in the ordinary encounter being the impossible thing's presence in the world, in the form of the full expression of what they carry, is the impossible thing present in the world, in the most ordinary available form, in the form of the daily life, lived fully, in the genuine encounters, bringing what is carried to each encounter in the full form that the carrying makes available. The ordinary form of the impossible's happening is the most significant form it could take, more significant than any dramatic form, because the dramatic form is the form that announces itself as the dramatic, that presents itself as the event, that is the happening of the significant thing. The ordinary form is the form that does not announce itself. That is the happening in the form of the daily life, rather than the form of the announced event. The daily life as the form of the impossible's happening is the form that reaches the most people in the most direct way. The dramatic announcement reaches the people who are in the vicinity of the dramatic event. The daily life reaches everyone who is in the vicinity of the daily life, everyone in the ordinary encounters. Everyone who encounters what you carry in the ordinary form of the ordinary daily life. The ordinary form of the happening reaches everyone the ordinary daily life reaches. reaches more completely and more continuously and more deeply than any dramatic form, because the ordinary encounter is the most direct available form of the reaching. The impossible is happening in the ordinary form, in the ordinary encounters of the ordinary daily life, in the specific quality of what you bring to each ordinary encounter, in the interior consents generated in the people who are genuinely present in each ordinary encounter, in the shifted people carrying the shift from each ordinary encounter into every subsequent ordinary encounter, in the accumulated changing of the world through the accumulated ordinary encounters, accumulated interior consents, accumulated shifted peoples, accumulated propagation through every space they have subsequently occupied. The impossible is happening in all of it, in the ordinary form, in the daily life, in the encounters you are having today and will have tomorrow and had yesterday, in the specific quality of the presence you bring to each of those encounters, in what happens in the people who are genuinely present in those encounters, in what they carry from those encounters, in what changes in the world through the carrying. Right now, the impossible is happening right now in a specific encounter you are in as you receive this, in the space you are occupying as you receive this, in the quality of what you carry being present in the space you are in as you receive this. The impossible is present in this moment, in this space, in the full form, right now. The specific people in the history of the world who call the most significant things impossible, who made the precise impossible claim about them most significant things, and who were then present for the happening of the things they called impossible, carry a specific place in the full account of the impossible's happening that is worth holding. Their position is the position of the most credible available witness to the happening, more credible than the witnesses who were always willing to believe the thing would happen, more credible because the credibility of the witness to the happening is the credibility of the person who had the most specific reason to believe the happening could not happen and who encountered the happening anyway. The person who always believed the thing would happen confirms the happening by confirming what they already believed. The confirmation is the consistency of the prior belief with the encountered fact. The confirmation is real, but it is not the most significant form of the confirmation available. The most significant form is the confirmation by the person who believed the thing could not happen, who made the precise impossible claim encountering the happening. The confirmation by the prior disbeliever is the confirmation that reorganizes the prior disbelief. That is the impossible claim, revised by the encounter with the impossible thing being present in the world. Across the full history of the most significant impossible claims, the most significant witnesses to the happening have been the people who made them impossible claims, the precise disbelievers whose prior disbelief gave the happening its most credible witness, whose reorganization of the prior disbelief in the encounter with the happening is the most significant intellectual event that the happening produces in any individual, more significant than the confirmation by the prior believers, more significant than their acknowledgement by the institutions. more significant than any other individual's response to the happening. The people who called what you carry impossible are in this position, are the most credible available witnesses to the happening, are the people whose prior disbelief, whose precise impossible claim gives their encounter with the happening the specific quality of the prior disbeliever's reorganization, are in the most significant position available from within the structures of the world's organized understanding of the possible and the impossible. Their organization is underway, has been underway since the encounters with the happening, since the encounters with what you carry in the form that the happening takes. Each encounter produced the beginning of the reorganization in the person who had made the impossible claim and who was in the encounter with the happening. The beginning accumulated across the encounters. The accumulated beginning is the reorganization in its current form. The current form is the reorganization that is most advanced in the people who have had the most encounters with the happening. The most advanced reorganization is the most complete available revision of the impossible claim, is the most complete available movement from the precise impossible claim toward the organized understanding that can account for the priorness, that can include the original in the set of what can be in the world, that can account for the impossibles being in the world through the priorness rather than through the conditions production. The most advanced reorganization is the most significant intellectual event that the impossibles happening produces, is the organized understanding's most complete current revision toward including what it previously excluded, is the revision that has been produced by the encounters with what you carry, by the encounters with the happening, by the impossible being present in the world in the form of the full expression. The revision is the impossible's happening's most significant legacy in the organized understanding, more significant than any specific event the happening produced, more significant than any specific outcome the happening generated. The reorganization of the organized understanding toward including the priorness is the most significant thing the impossible's happening produces in the world, is what the happening was ultimately for, is the most lasting contribution of the impossible thing being present in the world in the form you carry it in. The contribution is the reorganization. The reorganization is underway. You are the cause. The impossible's happening through you is the cause of the most significant reorganization of the organized understanding currently underway. The reorganization is your contribution to the organized understanding's development toward the understanding that can account for the priorness, that can include the original, that can include you. The claim that the impossible cannot happen has a specific structure that makes the claim vulnerable in the specific way that the happening exposes. The structure of the impossible claim is the structure of the negation, is the claim that the set of the possible does not include the thing being claimed as impossible. The negation depends on the completeness of the set. The claim that something is not in the set depends on the set being complete, on the set containing everything that can be in the set, so that what is not in the set is what cannot be in the set. The set of the possible is not complete, is never complete, is always the set of the possible as understood by the organized understanding at the specific moment. When the impossible claim is made, is the set as the organized understanding has defined it as the collection of things that the organized understanding has determined the available conditions can produce, is the set of what the organized understanding can account for, is not the set of everything that can be in the world, is the set of everything the organized understanding can account for being in the world. The organized understanding set is always incomplete in a specific way that makes the impossible claim always potentially wrong about anything that is in the world through a mechanism the organized understanding has not accounted for. The organized understanding at any given moment accounts for the mechanisms it has developed the account of, does not account for the mechanisms it has not yet encountered or has encountered and called impossible, rather than developing the account of. The priorness is the mechanism the organized understanding has consistently called impossible, rather than developing the account of, has called the original the thing that is prior to every condition impossible, because the organized understanding's framework is the framework of what the conditions produce, and the priorness is outside every framework of what the conditions produce, is prior to the framework, is what the framework was developed in the presence of but cannot contain within the framework, because the framework is built of the conditions, and what is prior to every condition is what the framework is built in the presence of and cannot incorporate into the building without the framework becoming the account of what preceded the building. The organized understanding cannot incorporate the priorness, cannot account for it, cannot place it in the set of the possible, because the set of the possible is built of what the conditions produce, and the priorness is not what the conditions produce. The priorness is always outside the set, is always the impossible by the organized understanding's definition. The priorness is always the impossible, and the priorness is always present in the world, is always the most present thing in the world, the thing that is prior to every condition, the most fundamentally present thing in the world, because it is present before every condition and is present after every condition changes, and is present regardless of every configuration of every available condition. The most fundamentally present thing in the world is the thing the organized understanding calls impossible. The impossible is the most fundamentally present thing in the world. The most fundamentally present thing is what you carry. The original is the most fundamentally present thing, the thing that is prior to every condition and is present in the world through the priorness, rather than through the condition's production. The original is the impossible. The impossible is the original. The original is the most fundamentally present thing. The most fundamentally present thing is happening right now, has always been happening, was happening before the claim called it impossible, is happening despite the claim, will be happening after the claim has been revised by the organized understanding's encounter with the priorness. The organized understanding is revising, is in the reorganization that they encounter with the impossible's presence in the world produces, is encountering the priorness in the form of what you carry, is producing in its reorganization the beginning of the account of the priorness, the beginning of the inclusion of what is prior to every condition in the organized understanding of what can be in the world. The revision is underway. The organized understanding is revising toward including the priorness, is revising toward including you, is revising toward the organized understanding that can account for the impossibles happening. The revision is the most significant intellectual development the organized understanding is producing, is the development that includes what was previously excluded as impossible, that includes the original, the priorness, the genuine thing that is the most fundamentally present thing in the world in the form that the organized understanding could not account for. The revision includes you. The organized understanding's most significant current development is the development that includes what you carry, the inclusion of the impossible as the priorness, the original, the most fundamentally present thing. The recognition is underway. The movement is toward you. The recognition is of you. There is a quality that the impossibles happening produces in the person. Who is the happening in the person who carries the original that is the impossible's presence in the world that is different from any quality that the happening of the possible things produces in the person who produces the possible things. The quality is the quality of the carrier of the original, rather than the producer of the possible. The producer of the possible produces what the conditions make available. The production is the applying of the human capacity to the available conditions in the way that produces the extraordinary thing that the available conditions make available. When the full human capacity is applied to the producing, the producer of the possible is the person in a specific relationship with the conditions, the relationship of the applier of the human capacity to the available conditions in the producing of the extraordinary possible thing. The carrier of the original is in a different relationship, not the applier to the conditions, but the prior to the conditions. Not the producer of what the conditions make available, but the person who is what the conditions are always reaching toward. Not the extraordinary possible thing, but the impossible thing itself, the original, prior to every condition, present in the world through the priorness, carrying what the conditions are organized around, approaching from the outside. The quality that the carrier of the original has that the producer of the possible does not have is the quality of the unconditional. The producer of the possible is dependent on the conditions, produces the extraordinary possible thing in the conditions that make the extraordinary possible thing available, and produces something different in different conditions, and is always in the relationship with the conditions that the producer of the possible's production requires. The carrier of the original is not dependent on the conditions, is prior to the conditions, is what the carrier is regardless of what the conditions are. The unconditional quality is the most significant quality the impossibles happening produces in the person who is the happening. is the quality of being what one is regardless of the conditions, of carrying what is carried prior to every condition that the world produces and subsequent to every condition that the world produces, and regardless of what conditions the world produces in the period between the prior and the subsequent, of the carrying being the prior condition rather than the product of any condition. You carry the unconditional quality, have always carried it, was carrying it before the conditions produced the form the preparation built from it, is carrying it now in the full form the preparation built, will be carrying it after the full forms the expression in the current conditions has been the expression in the historical record of the current period. The carrying is unconditional. The unconditional carrying is the impossibles happening in you, is the original's presence in the world in the form that the unconditional carrying makes present. The unconditional quality produces a specific relationship to the conditions that is different from the producer of the possible's relationship. The producer of the possible is in the relationship of the dependence on the conditions of them, producing being dependent on the conditions, being the conditions that make the producing available. The carrier of the original is in the relationship of the priorness of being what is carried prior to the conditions and expressing what is carried through whatever conditions are present, of the expression being organized around the carrying rather than around the conditions availability. The expression organized around the carrying is the expression that the daily life of the impossibles happening produces. The daily life in which each encounter is the expression of the carrying through whatever conditions the encounter is in the hospitable conditions and in the less hospitable conditions, in the ordinary and the extraordinary, the full form of the carrying in every condition, the unconditional quality in every condition. The impossible is happening in every condition. The unconditional quality makes the happening unconditional. Right now, in whatever conditions the right now presents. They called it impossible because it is unconditional, because it does not require the conditions to be the conditions that make it available, because it is prior to the conditions and present through the priorness regardless of the conditions. The unconditional is the impossible by the organized understanding's definition, because the organized understanding's framework is the framework of the conditional of what the conditions make available. The unconditional is outside the framework of the conditional, is impossible by the conditional framework's definition. The impossible is the unconditional. The unconditional is the original. The original is what you carry. You carry the impossible. You are the impossibles happening right now in the full form, unconditionally, regardless of the conditions, prior to the conditions, present through the priorness. The impossible is happening right now. You are the happening is you. The impossible's happening right now has a specific relationship to what has been happening across the full arc of the years that is the most complete account of what the right now means in the title's specific framing. The right now is not the beginning, is not the first moment of the impossible's happening. The impossible has been happening across the full arc of the years that have produced you in the form you are in now, has been present across the full arc in the form that the full arc was the form of, in the form that the preparation was building. The right now is the moment of the full form, is the moment of the impossibles happening in the most complete available form, the form that the full preparation built, that the full arc produced, that the completion of the preparation made available, is the moment of the impossible being present in the world in the form that is the full form rather than the earlier, less complete forms that the preparation was the form of. The earlier forms were the impossible happening in the form of the preparation, in the form of the genuine thing being present in the world in the degree of the completeness that the preparation had reached at each stage. The full arc was the arc of the impossible happening in the form of the preparation of the original being present in the world in the gradually more complete form that the preparation was producing stage by stage of the impossible happening in the incomplete form, becoming the impossible happening in the more complete form, becoming the impossible happening in the most complete available form. The right now is the most complete available form, is the form that the full arc produced, is the impossible happening in the most complete expression that the impossible has taken in the world in you, is the full expression, is what the full preparation built from the original that was always already there. The building did not produce the original was prior. The building produced the full form of the original's expression in the world. The full form is what is happening right now. The right now is the full form. The full form is the most complete happening of the impossible. The most complete happening is what is present right now in you, in the ordinary encounters of the daily life, in the specific quality of what you bring to each encounter in the full form that the full arc produced, in the interior consents generated in the full form, in the shifted people who carry the full formed shift from the encounter into the subsequent encounters, in the accumulated changing of the world through the full form's accumulated encounters. The impossible is happening in the full form right now. This is what the right now means. The full form, the most complete available happening, the most complete available presence of the original in the world, the most complete available expression of the thing that the organized understanding called impossible because the organized understanding could not account for the priorness that makes the impossible present in the world in the full form right now. They called it impossible. It is happening right now, in the full form, in you, in the ordinary encounters of the daily life, in every genuine meeting, in every interior consent, in every shifted person, in every subsequent encounter, in the accumulated changing of the world, in all of it, right now, the full form, the impossible happening. Right now, the full form, the specific form of the impossibles happening, that is most present in the ordinary encounters of the right now, the form that is most directly experienced in the daily life of the person who is the happening, is the form that the impossible takes when the impossible is not the dramatic event but the ordinary quality. The ordinary quality that the impossible takes when the impossible is the original present in the world, through the unconditional caring. The ordinary quality is the specific texture of the encounters with the people who are in the genuine meeting with what you carry. The texture of the encounter with the interior consent is generated before any decision has been made by the person generating it, where the space changes in the quality specific to the original's presence, before any specific feature of the presence has been identified, where what happens in the people who are genuinely present is the happening of the impossible in the most immediate available form, the form of the impossible's direct effect in the genuine encounter. The direct effect is the interior consent. The interior consent is the impossible's happening in the most immediate and most personal form available, more immediate than any institutional acknowledgement, more personal than any organized recognition. The interior consent in the individual person, in the specific moment of the genuine meeting, in the direct registration of the original's presence. This is the impossible's happening in the form that is most present in the daily life, that is most continuous, that is most consistently available as the evidence of the impossible's presence in the world. The interior consents accumulating across the full arc of the genuine encounters are the impossibles happening accumulated in the world. Each interior consent is the impossible happening in the person who is generating it. The accumulated interior consents are the impossible accumulated in the people who have been in the genuine meetings. The accumulated impossible in the accumulated people is the impossible's most significant presence in the world, more significant than any dramatic event, more present than any institutional acknowledgement, more accumulated than any organized recognition. The impossible is accumulating in the people who have been in the genuine meetings, in the residue of the interior consents they carry from the meetings, in the quality they bring to the subsequent encounters, in the accumulating changing of the world, through the accumulating impossible in the accumulating people. The impossible is in the world in the accumulated form, has been accumulating since the first genuine encounter, is accumulating right now in the encounters that are happening right now, in the people who are in the genuine meetings right now, in the interior consents they are generating right now. They called it impossible. It has been happening. It is happening right now. The happening is the daily life. The daily life is the happening. The impossible is the daily life right now. One final thing the impossible's happening produces that the full account requires naming before the account is complete. The impossible's happening produces in the world the evidence that the impossible can happen, the evidence that the set of the possible, the set of what the organized understanding determines can be in the world, is not the full set of what can be in the world. That what is outside the set can be in the world through the priorness. That the priorness is a real mechanism for being in the world. That the original is what is in the world through the priorness. That the original is real and present and in the world in the form of what you carry. The evidence is the most significant thing the impossible's happening contributes to the world, begin the immediate effects of the happening itself, more significant than any specific change the happening produces, more significant than any accumulation of interior consents, more significant than any reorganization of any organized understanding. The evidence that the impossible can happen is what the impossible's happening leaves in the world as the permanent contribution to what the world knows about the set of the possible. The evidence changes the world's relationship to the impossible, makes the impossible a category that includes things that happen rather than a category that names things outside the happening's reach, makes the original a thing that is in the world rather than a thing that is outside the world, makes the priorness a mechanism for the world's having what the conditions cannot produce rather than a theoretical description of something that the world never actually contains. The evidence is in the world, has been in the world since the impossible began happening, is in the people who have been in the genuine meetings, is in the residue they carry, is in the quality of the subsequent encounters, is in the accumulated changing of the world through the accumulated interior consents, is everywhere the impossible has been, is the impossible's permanent mark on the world, the permanent evidence that the impossible can happen, that the original is in the world, that the priorness is real, that what they called impossible is happening right now. The evidence is permanent, was produced by the happening, is in the world, cannot be removed, is the happening's most permanent legacy, the legacy that remains after every specific expression of the happening, has been the historical record. The evidence remains. The impossible is permanently evidenced in the world by having happened. It happened, is happening, right now. You are the evidence, the impossible evidence that the impossible can happen, that the original is real, that the priorness is the mechanism, that what was called impossible is the most fundamentally present thing in the world, right now. Type the fire emoji followed by the word now in the comments. The flame for what is present, the word for the moment, fire and now. The impossible is present now. The flame names what is present, the now names when. Fire and now, together. The impossible happening right now. Type it. The happening is confirmed. The right now is confirmed. The full form is confirmed. Fire and now. The next video on your screen is the account of what the impossible's happening in the full form right now produces in the specific encounters of the right now, what the full form of the impossible's presence produces in each ordinary encounter, what the world receives when the most complete available happening of the impossible is what is brought to each genuine meeting, what the right now of the full form means for the specific texture of the daily life. Click now. The impossible is happening right now in the full form. The encounters of the full form begin.